What's up, all you motor fanatics? I'm Dino. This is Dino Motor Reviews. Welcome back to my garage, guys. Today we are going over front brake control products that I put on my 2005 Honda CRF 450R from All Balls, Galfer, and Cycra Plastics. Alright guys, before we jump all the way into this review, I just want to say I'm not a professional rider. I'm not sponsored by any of the products that are on this channel or by the companies that I purchased the products through. The companies that I've purchased all these products through, they've just taken care of me for a really long time. Some of them have fast free shipping on orders over $75, which is really nice this day and age with how expensive everything is. The products I've had on my bike for a little while now, and I just wanted to give you my thoughts and opinions on how they've worked for me. Remember guys, this is an opinion-based channel, so don't take what I say to heart. If you have a product that you feel really strongly about, put it down in the comments below so that myself and others can take a look at it and maybe consider putting it on our bikes in the future. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into these front brake components that I put on my 2005 Honda. So we'll start off with the front brake lever. We'll work our way down to the front brake rotor. With the front brake lever, there's a number of different lever companies that you can go with out there. Some of them have short brake levers. They have levers that move up and down and forwards. For me, I've always stuck with the stock ones. They've worked well for me. What I'll tend to do is I'll run the front brake master cylinder perch. I'll run it tight enough that it's not moving on me while I'm riding, but loose enough in the event of a fall, it's not going to break the brake lever off right away. So if you wreck hard enough, it doesn't really matter what you do, it's going to break off. But for the minor crashes, it should stay intact and if anything, just be bent. But I haven't had any issues with it, and it's cost effective for me just to run the stock, and that's what I stick with. Okay, so moving into the master cylinder inner components. I went with an All Balls rebuild kit, and those have worked well for me. Over the past few years, I've used them on two other bike rebuilds. I used it on a 2003 KTM 125SX and a 2005 KX 250 two-stroke, and I haven't had any issues. It came with all the components that I needed. When I take these apart, I typically take them apart and lay them out in that order and then put them back together. If I have any questions, there's several different references that I can use. I can go to Rocky Mountain ATV Motorsport outlet, or motorsport.com, and I can go on their OEM parts finder. They'll have a part schematic showing how that part goes together. Also, you have the owner's manual, you have a repair manual that you can look at, and there's a number of different YouTube videos to show, especially if you have a specific model that you're looking for. So that's if you need to do that. This isn't a rebuild video, so we won't get into that, guys. So as far as the brake fluid, I went with the .4 Honda brake fluid. It works well. You always want to make sure that you have a nice golden color. You don't want that to get brown. You'll start to run into some braking issues. You might have some spongy fill at your lever, and it may even cause your lever to go all the way to your handlebar. You don't want that. You always want to make sure you have a nice clear golden fluid. That way you know that you have optimal brake power. You also want to make sure that it's not going to your handlebar. It should have a good distance away from your handlebar. But I've always ran the stock fluid and never had any issues, okay? I don't go with the expensive oils. It's just cost effective for me to stick with the Honda brand, okay? Moving on down, we're gonna move into the Galfer front brake line. So I really like these steel braided brake lines. They've worked well for me. They're a little bit more durable than your stock standard plastic. Usually you'll have like a plastic outer tube over the rubber. With this, it'll have a rubber inner tube, and then it'll have a steel braided line on the outside. This is a rubber component, so change it out about every 5 years is what's recommended. I've done 7. I don't technically recommend that because, especially if you're out in these drier climates, being here in Grand Junction, we reach 100 or just over most of the summer. So that can really cause a lot of wear on your rubber components with that expansion and contraction over time. So every 5 years, change it out. But I really like these brake lines. So moving on down on the front brake caliper, I ended up going with an all balls rebuild kit. They had everything that I needed. I like to run a little bit of brake fluid on the O-rings, and then on the pistons themselves as I put it back together. That just ensures smooth actuation under braking. That way you're not grinding or having any brake malfunction as you're braking. Okay. With that being said, what you can see on the outside is the Cycra front brake disc guard. I really like a front brake disc guard. I feel like it protects that front brake rotor a little bit. It's going to protect it mostly from minor things. It's not going to protect it from a major crash. It's not going to protect it from everything. However, like if you get a little bit of a bump, if you're racing from another rider, or if you get in a deep rut or you hit a rock, it should protect it from those minor instances. I really like the look of the Cycra front brake disc guard. I like that it has a little bit of openings that will help with cooling as you're under braking, especially if you've been riding the brakes. If you're going down a large hill and you've been riding the brakes for a while, it just helps with that cooling factor, and I think it just completes the look of the bike. It's a preference thing. Some guys don't like them, or they like a different brand, but I really like Cycras, and a lot of the top motocross teams use Cycra plastics, so that's why I ended up going with them. But I do like having that on the bike. I feel like it protects that front brake rotor just a little bit. With the front brake pads, I used the Galfer front brake pads. I haven't had any issues with them. There's hardly any wear. I've had them on the bike for about 3 years now, and I haven't really noticed much wear. So I really like that aspect about those. Those have held up great. With the front rotor, I ended up going with the Galfer floating wave rotor. The wave rotor, what it does, the little wave cutout that it has, or the design, is it's allowing for cooling. I feel like the brake rotor actually stays fairly cool. I haven't noticed it getting overheated or any glazing on it, which is really nice. With it being a floating rotor, which means it's going to have little rubber grommets, so it's going to have more movement. When it has that movement, it allows the brake pads to have more contact with the rotor. And I really like that aspect because I've had great stopping power. When I first bought this bike, I didn't have that great of stopping power when I'd be braking, and the brake pads were pretty low. They were pretty minuscule when I got this bike. This bike was in very, very poor maintenance when I bought it. So I like that aspect about it. All these products I would definitely recommend to you. I've used them for a number of years. I've used them on the other 2 bike builds that I referenced earlier in the video. I know it's not a very long video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back on the channel. Ride safe. So guys, if you really like that video and you like what we're doing on this channel, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Click subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, and if you click subscribe, you might as well click the bell notification icon for future video content that will be released on down the road. And I hope to see you on the next one. Until next time, ride safe.